Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the boxing circuit. Back again with another video. This time looking ahead to this weekend's fight between Canelo Alvarez and Jermell Charlo. As we do on this channel, we're going to provide you some context around the fight, pre-fight breakdown, and finish with a big fight prediction at the end. Before we jump into that, however, as most of you may notice, we are very new to the YouTube platform. This is our 13th or 14th video. Pleased to say, from a viewership standpoint, we seem to be going in the right direction. Our last few videos in particular have performed very well, for our standard anyway. I mean, we're in the hundreds at the moment, not quite the thousands. But we still could do with some help in growing our subscriber base. So if you do find that you like this video or any of the others that we put out, if you could hit like and subscribe, we'd really appreciate your support in growing the channel. All right, so a bit of context around how we got to this fight. So a few months ago, this fight was announced, but before it was announced, the rumor was that it'd actually be Jermell Charlo who would get the call to face Canelo. Now, Jermell Charlo is a slightly bigger, slightly older twin brother of Jermell Charlo. The reason that made sense at the time was Jermell Charlo is the WBC middleweight champion, so he would only be jumping up one weight class to take on Canelo Alvarez at super middleweight, which nowadays isn't actually that uncommon. For whatever reason, Jermell Charlo turned the fight down, and it was offered to Jermell Charlo. He accepted, and that's resulted in him jumping up two weight divisions to take on Canelo Alvarez at super middleweight. For those who may not be familiar, Jermell Charlo is, or at least was, the undisputed champion at 154 pounds. The reason I say was is I think he's recently been stripped of the WBO belt. So at the time the fight was announced, it was undisputed against undisputed. And although Jermell may have recently been stripped of the WBO title, for all intents and purposes, as far as I'm concerned, it is undisputed against undisputed. Now, it is worth noting that this fight is taking place at super middleweight, so it'll only be Canelo Alvarez's titles that are on the line. So should Jermell Charlo not be successful in this fight, he doesn't lose any of his titles at 154. He can still come back down and defend those, provided the governing bodies don't strip him of any more titles. So it would just be Canelo Alvarez's super middleweight titles that will be on the line for this particular bout. So in terms of the two fighters and a little bit of context and background, so Canelo Alvarez has been the far busier fighter out of these two. So I've taken a look back at their records over the past 4 years, so going back to 2019. And within that period of 4 years, Jermell Charlo has fought 5 times. So he's currently averaging a fight a year, effectively. So he had one fight this year, which will be the Canelo Alvarez fight. He had one fight in 2022, one in 2021, one in 2020, and two in 2019. Canelo, on the other hand, has fought 9 times during that period. So he is by far the busier fighter out of the two of them. And I do think that will play a part in this particular fight. Although Canelo hasn't looked particularly impressive in his last performances, his last one was against John Ryder. Although he won that fight, as I say, he didn't look particularly impressive. He did have John Ryder hurt at one stage in the fight around the mid-level rounds, but then was unable to finish John Ryder. And as the fight went on, John actually got a bit stronger. Now, Canelo never looked in danger in that fight, but he certainly didn't look like he was capable of stopping John Ryder as the fight continued to go late. So Canelo did pick up the points victory, but I guess he didn't look as spectacular as he did in some of his previous fights before that. So before the John Ryder fight, he took on Gennady Golovkin, which was the third fight of their trilogy fight. Again, picked up a unanimous decision in this fight. But Gennady Golovkin at that age, I think he was 39 at the time. Canelo was obviously beaten convincingly in their second fight, and this was just more of a money fight, I think, for both fighters. But Canelo nonetheless did the job and picked up the win there. Prior to that, he actually lost when he stepped up to light heavyweights for take on Dmitry Bivol. So Canelo's form of late is 2 wins, 1 loss. But those 2 wins, he hasn't necessarily looked like the Canelo of age when he went on to unify and become undisputed at super middleweight, taking on the 3 champions, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, all within the space of 12 months. And he got 2 stoppages in there and a unanimous points decision against Callum Smith. So the bar for Canelo is set very high. And I think that that's why when he puts in performances like he did against John Ryder, he tends to get a lot of criticism and people start to ask the question, has he lost a step? Is he as good as he was? Is he no longer pound for pound number 1? And I think because his bar is so high, naturally people are always going to judge him against that. So victim of his own success, if you like. Jermell Charlo, on the other hand, As I say, hasn't been active. Last fight was in 2022 when he took on Brian Castano. That was a rematch of the fight which happened in 2021, which was scored a draw. They fought again in 2022. Charlo knocked him out in that fight and become undisputed champion. So, Charlo, to his own credit, has gone it the hard way as well, picked up all the titles and done everything he can at 154 pounds. So I think that no one can blame him for taking this particular fight. He's daring to be great. It's by far the biggest fight of his career. He's going to make a career high payday. His profile is going to go through the roof. Should he actually go on to cause the upset, it's just going to catapult him into the top 5 pound for pound list. He's going to get a rematch with Canelo, which is going to be him at big money. So for me, this is a no-lose fight for Jermell Charlo. It's a no-brainer for him to take it. If he loses, he just goes right back to 154 and defends his titles, most likely against Tim Tszyu, or if Terence Crawford decides to step up from welterweight. So still some super fights for him. Canelo Alvarez, on the other hand, I think needs a big statement in this fight. If he's got any aspirations and ambitions of fighting Dimitri Bivol again and convincing the public that he stands a chance of winning that fight, he certainly can't lose to a guy smaller than him. So he needs to win this fight, and I think he needs to make a big statement. In terms of the actual fight, my prediction is Canelo Alvarez win. I think he is the heavy favourite in this fight, and rightly so. He is the naturally bigger fighter. He is technically better. He's more experienced. He fought a better profile of fighter than Charlo. So he is undoubtedly, in my eyes, the favourite. Jermell Charlo, I think, will give it everything. I've seen the press conferences this week. I've seen the on the shoulder content from Showtime, and Jermell Charlo was taking this fight seriously. And why wouldn't he? This could be his ticket to completely change his life forever. So he's putting everything into it. But I do expect Canelo Alvarez to come through. I think he's been the busier fighter. I think technically he'll be better than Charlo. And Canelo Alvarez said it in the press conferences. There's levels to this game. And I just think Canelo Alvarez is a level above Jermell Charlo. I think Jermell Charlo could go on to do things down at 154, maybe even middleweight as well. But I think jumping up weight classes, never ends particularly well. And I just think at this stage in both of their careers, I don't think there's enough that Jermell Charlo's done to tell me that he would cause Canelo Alvarez significant problems in there. I do think it will be a close fight for the first few rounds, maybe even getting to a halfway point of the fight. Maybe it's 3-3 or 4-2, but I do expect Canelo Alvarez to take on as the fight goes late, because I think those extra 14 pounds that Jermell Charlo will be carrying will play a part, will be a big factor. And it wouldn't surprise me if Canelo could get the stoppage in this fight somewhere between rounds 8 and 11. So I'm going for a Canelo Alvarez win. I do think Jermell Charlo will give it everything, and I do expect him to make the fight competitive to begin with. But in the end, I think that the levels will show, and Canelo Alvarez will go on to get the stoppage. So let me know what you think. If you can leave your comments in the comments section, I'll do my best to get back to every single one of you. I look forward to hearing what you think, whether you agree with me, whether you don't. And I'll see you on the other side to review the fight. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.